At least 21 days prior to the public hearing, the applicant is responsible for posting a 2-foot by 2-foot sign containing a legible description, etc. I have a picture of a blank 18.5 square, 18 inches, not 24 inches. So, I mean, you go to the shoe store and ask for a 10 and they give you a 9.5 and say, try this, that's okay. They give you a 7.5 size shoe and they're just insulting you. And it's blank. It is not intelligible. So I object to the hearing. I do not object to the public forum. I welcome that. But there simply can't be a hearing today because the criteria has not been met. And that's what I'm happy to pass this around the room if anybody wants. Why don't we start this?
So they can read it?
So yeah, if you look, there's a, I think it's a roofing nail in the middle of the thing. I took that from as close to the sign as I could get without being on the property. So I'm standing a few feet off of the street with my camera out like this. And you can see a roofing nail in the middle, so it's not like we're far away. If you look behind it, there's a tractor trailer. And if the angle was a little different, I could probably read the tractor trailer's license plate, but I can't read the sign that's 6 feet in front of me.
Real quick, because that was something that came up recently that was brought to our attention. That sign has been there since November for a previous meeting that was then postponed until today.
Right.
So what had happened was that was never updated, and we apologize for that. And what we have done is put one up in its place.
Right.
Yes.
That was after
Correct.
After Jack was made aware of the fact that you're not keeping it in line with the ordinance.
Right.
So,
But let me finish, please.
You guys are supposed to be following the ordinance without having to be told, hey, wait a minute, you got to follow the ordinance.
Okay. So we followed the ordinance originally. Like I said, everything was up in November for the 21 days before the. Okay, please. Let me finish.
Really, let him finish.
The sign that's up today was, and I'm not, Justin, you can help me with this, but is to just give notice of today's meeting and discussion. There will be a sign 21 days before the next meeting.
We're aware that Dollar General has massive amounts of corporate money behind them, and you can afford to do things that local business owners could never afford to do. You can afford to put in a $500,000 turn lane or $1 million turn lane and put out all the small business owners out of business. It is also, many of the people here are very good at doing research and realize that that is purportedly one of the business models of Dollar General, along with other big corporate-owned stores, is to just plaster the area with stores and wipe out all competition. It is a business model. It's not one that's going to rival Morgan County, and as you can see, we will do everything we can to stop it. We don't want it in there.
I love to ride my horse along Oakland Road. Russ jogs on it. There are any number of bikers you can see on there, bicyclers exercising on the road. There's enough traffic on that road right now. Now the second point is from the Red Barn up to the bridge. My wife and I walk, and we gather up the garbage. I don't know why people love to just throw their stuff right out the window, but as you know they do. We can get all the garbage in that area now with a Food Lion bag. But I figure if you guys put this thing in, we're going to need a feed sack. Thank you.
People have asked me, Josh, and is this an additional Dollar General store, or is this in place of the Dollar General store that's here?
That is a good question. I get that a lot usually. Okay. This is an additional. What the point of this store is, and I just want to make a statement here real quick. We're kind of getting off topic of this is about the plat necessarily. but I'm happy to answer the questions though, regardless. But this store is to reach a different market than maybe the one here in town does. Typically, the travel radius of a store is not that great. So that's why there's the ability to put multiple stores in a 10-mile area, which in this case it would be roughly 10 miles from this store to the proposed store. So that is pretty commonplace as far as different markets. So this long answer, but yes, this is a different story, a different store, and it is for that reason.
Well, I have a concern because with 17,000 people in the community, that would be the fourth dollar store. And when I opened my shop, I spent 6 months putting together information about the community and where the people were going to come from and who I was going to sell to and how many people I needed to sustain my business. And I find it almost impossible to believe that with 17,000 people in a community that they could support 4 dollar stores. And I understand we're talking about Platt, but I just wanted to say that.
When you say you've done market research, I'm wondering if we would be able to see what that research is. Because based on what I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like it's taken into account what the residents of that neighborhood feel. And I don't think that's Dollar General's approach. I'm wondering if you are open, as a representative of Dollar General, to having a meeting where you invite the Morgan County residents in to voice their concerns. Is that something that you would be open to?
Let me just respond real quickly about the market research. That's something that Dollar General Corporate does. We, as a developer, are a representative of the company, but they are also our client. There's something that aren't shared between both. That is one of them. They basically tell us that's a feasible site, and it's typically an area, a small area, so it's not necessarily that piece of dirt. But that's the market research that we get from them. So in order to share that, I'd have to get it from them. If that's possible, I don't see a reason why we couldn't.
I would appreciate you looking into that. And would you also look into if they're willing to host a meeting, inviting the residents of Morgan County to be able to talk with them directly?
Sure. That was sort of the goal of tonight, which is great that we had this big of a turnout, so I can make appropriate notes and hear everyone's comments and concerns. To have another meeting, I guess.
Or if there's somebody that we should be writing to, because obviously with the weather conditions today, you're not having the turnout that, and this is a solid good turnout, but you're not having as many people as there would have been if it was wasn't the storm conditions that we've had recently.
Okay.
So if you look into that and you're not able to have a second meeting, could you at least provide us with who it is we should be writing directly to?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, that's something I can do.
thank you.
But back to the traffic, we have spoken with the DOH, we have met with them, sat down across the table and set our plan out and talked through with them what our options would be. They suggested, and we have agreed, to put in a turn lane, a left-hand turn lane from 552 onto Oakland Road. Ultimately,
That's going south, correct?
yes, correct. So the left-hand into the, yep. And it'll meet all of their criteria. Obviously we'll have to get a permit from the Department of Highways in order to construct, and they will review the plans prior to any sort of construction. That's one point that I think will help some of the concerns about safety and the number of cars around that intersection. It'll be hopefully in a better orientation little bit more organized than possibly now. Kind of along the same lines as the truck maneuvering in and out of the site, we've run multiple models of our truck, the specific truck moving in and out of the site, and it works without any significant impact to either roadway, especially with the turn lane, included in that model. So I just want everybody to be aware of that as well. The truck is part of the plan, yes.
What size trucks are we talking about? What's the
Typically, they're like a 53-foot long truck. It's a pretty standardized 18-wheeler.
But just to follow up with Josh regarding the waivers, I don't think the applicant is looking for any waivers to the permits, but just a time frame, a waiver of the time frame of when to get those permits. I can understand having worked with a real estate developer, being in their shoes, looking out in this crowd and seeing tons of opposition to a project that maybe it's in my best interest to see, at least preliminarily, does it have a snowball's chance of moving forward, given all the opposition, before I apply to those permits. Now, from what I understand from Josh, he's absolutely going to have to go get those permits, but those waivers are not to say, hey, give me a break, don't make me get any permits. We don't need no stinking permits. He's only asking for a little bit of movement there to say, guys, is this even feasible before I go spending however much money on engineers and application fees and working with all these people to get the permits?